Good day to everyone. Welcome to the Talent Show, where you will meet the people that power TTEC. I am pumped for this episode. It's one of my favorite times of the year because we're celebrating all of the things. That's right, this weekend is International Women's Day, and here in the United States, we're already into Women's History Month. And so today we have a very fitting guest joining us. Kelsey Marler. She is been with TTEC for over 14 or almost 14 years, and she's a client success director along with a co-chair of our Women in Leadership community. So we're going to be really inspired by her story and walk away with some great tangible advice. So we're really excited to celebrate and get this International Women's Day party started with her. But first, we want to hear from you. So please let us know in the chat where you're joining us from today. We love to see everyone from around the world and really appreciate the time that you take to join us. And I hope that we can help to unlock some amazing potential within you with our guest here today and the advice that she'll be sharing. So don't be shy along the way. We'd love to hear from you. Let us know where you're joining us from. So let's go ahead and bring on Kelsey as our guest here today. Hey,
Hey, Rebecca.
Kelsey. Oh, Kelsey, maybe there's a little bandwidth issue. Can you hear me okay?
I can. Am I back to normal?
Yes, we're here now. Yes. Hi, Kelsey.
Perfect.
How are you?
Perfect. I'm great, Rebecca. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you so much. And yes, the power of the internet is fantastic, and then the bandwidth thing happens. But we're we're glad that you're joining us here. You took some time out of your very busy day to help us celebrate the women at TTEC and give us a peek into your journey, as well as how you're helping to support really women around the globe, alongside your amazing co-chair and the core team and all the volunteers that support women in leadership too. So thank you for joining us. Danielle is in the chat saying, "Let's go, Kelsey," with a little applause, clapping behind it. And Sandra is saying hello from Bogota, Colombia. So thank you so much for joining us. It's always a great global crowd. I know Danielle is joining us from Mexico as well. So Kelsey, we have a lot to cover today. I have a feeling you and I could chat for a really long time about the amazing experiences that you've had here at TTEC and growth stories. So first, let's just get started with a little about Kelsey. Could you just tell us a little bit about your TTEC story?
Yeah, no, definitely. So honestly, I stumbled into T-Tech. I tell people I kind of tripped into something amazing. I actually had, looked at an opportunity to, if I'm to be honest, just I was looking for a solid paycheck right out of high school. I started right out of high school. And I started as a frontline employee taking calls and supporting in, pretty much any manner. And I really, I had big dreams and aspirations. I was like, I'm going to be a race car driver one day. This isn't going to be my my career path. And there was something that just lit a fire in me whenever I graduated into like production state, and I came back in to help somebody else. And they raised their hand and they asked a question, and they were like, hey, where do I find this? And I knew the answer. And it was just this like very resonating moment for me, to where I was like, okay, this may have a bigger hold on me than I thought. And so, honestly, I just kind of stuck with it. And I had transitioned from different leadership roles, training, licensing. I dabbled around in some different travel, and just I recently had transitioned into a new role entirely, and that was kind of a scary leap of faith. But yeah, so I've been here for like you said, about 14 years, and I started again right on the phones as a baseline employee, and have just kind of dabbled around in multiple different varieties of TTEC.
I love your story. So while you might not be a race driver, a race car driver right now, it does sound like you've throttled your career here at TTEC and have been fully in the driver's seat, which is awesome. Not to play on too many driver there. Uh, but also, I think your story is a lot of other people's stories too, where they maybe thought this was just a temporary opportunity for them, and it's turned into a blossoming career. So thank you so much for sharing that part. And I just want to give a quick shout out to Wynn in the chat. Wynn, thank you so much for joining us. She says, hi, Kelsey. We also have another person joining us from Colorado. Sorry, on my end, it looks like LinkedIn user, but hello to you. I know you have a name besides LinkedIn user. So Kelsey, 14 years, you've been here, probably met a lot of people along the way. And
Yeah.
so women in leadership, could you tell us a little bit more about your current role, but really why did you get involved in women in leadership in the first place? And what has the experience helped to shape for you?
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's, I mean, it's a fantastic question because when I first came into the role or when I first joined TTEC, as I mentioned, it wasn't something I looked at as long term. And as I continued to grow and get to know everybody, I was like, okay, this is something that I'm having a lot of fun with. But I honestly never had the confidence to step into anything bigger than what I was doing. To get a bit more raw and candid, growing up, I had a very different childhood than most and maybe similar to some. And so, I was told a lot that you were probably going to have to work a little bit harder to get where you need to be. I was in foster care a lot growing up. I was on my own a lot growing up. I was also trying to help raise my little sister, and there's just so many different variables there. And I share all of that just to say that, I had always approached everything as it was going to be a bit difficult, and maybe I wasn't right for whatever that was. I wasn't entitled to it, or it wasn't going to ever work out for me. And I remember, hearing like, wow, you're really good at this from certain individuals, but then I would hear from others like, you're a bit too young, or, you would be really good at this, but, Joe, Tom, and Billy, they're actually a little bit better. And I think what I noticed was that it was constantly in my mind that, oh, well, I'm a young girl. Obviously, I've been here a lot longer now, but I'm just a young girl who I'm not made for this world. And I remember, somebody that was leading women in leadership at the time had mentioned like, hey, you should join a meeting. And this person was, I mean, just this powerhouse of a leader. And it really made me sit back in my chair and open up my eyes to, that glass ceiling that everybody talks about, or those invisible barriers. And it really gave me the confidence that I needed to step into my first leadership role. And I think, with me and with women in leadership, not only did it inspire me to join, but it inspired me to think about my path and my journey. And I really didn't want anybody else to spend that much time fighting themselves and battling imposter syndrome and battling just that lack of confidence to go out for something that they're good at. And so I think that's where Will really, made a huge impact on my life, was understanding that, anybody is capable of it. Everybody comes from a different background and everybody has different barriers that they're fighting, but it's helping them find that confidence. And so I first started joining community meetings and the different webinars and, the different showcases and networking events, et cetera. And then I was asked to step in as a community leader. And I was like, oh, here we are again with imposter syndrome and lack of confidence. And I was like, I don't know if I would be any good at that. Like, I struggled myself. And I remember one of my favorite mentors, and really was an ally. He had told me, he's like, Kelsey, you're gonna deal with these cycles in life, but you're never gonna know what that cycle is like until you jump into it. So I jumped in and I became a community leader. And then later on down the road, I stepped into a regional lead position and then a global lead position. And then most recently, I stepped into a chair position, all again to circle back to it was that one individual that took the time to say, hey, you have a talent. Don't let the voices of others start to crowd your mind so much that you lose confidence in yourself. And then me wanting to really be that mentor that I had, both in an ally but also in a women in leadership core leader, to kind of pull me along in my career journey with TTEC.
There's so many great things that you shared in there, and that importance, we talk a lot about it, on the talent show, is that one person who mentioned something along the way, or gave advice, and how that really kinda changed the trajectory, or, provided just a different lens, to look through, things with, and provide a different perspective. So we never know the impact that we're making on other people. So I think that that's so great that your ally and mentor has supported with you, that with you along the way too. And the other thing you said is you didn't want people to waste time, and that's the theme of International Women's Day, accelerating, right? You want, through women in leadership, to help people accelerate, not spend time thinking things that are maybe derogatory about themselves, and how do you empower and lift them up, and then help them accelerate their career even more too. So love. And a big part of women in leadership is this global community. It's really amazing. I didn't have a women in leadership type of or community in previous organizations that I worked at, and when I started here 7 years ago, I was lucky in my role. We just kind of jumped right into women in leadership. Got an informal mentor through the program, and it's just really helped me to connect with people around the globe. So, how has it helped you to build your global network as well?
Oh man, yeah, that's probably been the most amazing part of women in leadership is getting to know so many people. And obviously I am strongly passionate about it. I think for me, and I'll kind of backtrack but get to my point here. It's, growing up, a lot of women, they're missing certain pieces in their life. Maybe not everybody, but I was one of them. I didn't know you shouldn't brush curly hair. I didn't know how to put makeup on, or what to do with myself. And Will really gave that to me. And as I was traveling around different locations in the US, for example, I got to know a lot of individuals. But what really resonated with me, what hit me, is whenever I started to interact with our global network, our folks in APAC and LATAM, and in EMEA, and in all of these different areas. And I think what was amazing is getting to know all of the different just rich cultural enhances that they bring to their women in leadership network. And I think my favorite, really, I guess, memory or impact was, if you probably remember, we had the Magic Makers, and I was just honored to be one of those individuals that got to go to Disney. And that was my first time. I am a Disney fanatic. I have a Little Mermaid cup I keep on my desk, and I'm walking along, and I had two or three different individuals. Somebody that was from our APAC region, and I think somebody else that was from one of our LATAM regions. They ran up and they were like, Kelsey. I had to step back for a second, and I was like, oh my goodness. And it was just so exciting to, one, know that, you interact with these individuals all the time. They've taught, me lessons. I've been there as a mentor for them, and we've really kind of leaned on each other, even though we're across the globe from one another. But having that opportunity to come together and just see the excitement really on both of our faces when we got to see each other, it was amazing. And so I think, one, women in leadership has really, helped me form a lot of these relationships. But I think what it's really done is it's taught me to be a better leader and mentor, not only in the women in leadership space, but personally and professionally.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. It was great also to meet you at the Magic Makers too. Wonderful opportunity for us. We want to kick it over to the audience for a quick minute. Over to you, Daniela. Thank you so much. She says, "Thank you, Kelsey, for bringing imposter syndrome into the conversation. This is something most women face at some point, and addressing it openly helps us all recognize our worth, our own achievements, and support each other in breaking through self-doubt." And I think that so many of the workshops along the way too that Women in Leadership has offered, and just that support system has been amazing. So thank you, Kelsey, for sharing that with us today. Um, so uh, there's a lot that we talked about yesterday and that you're bringing into the conversation today around the importance of confidence. So what is it about confidence that's important to you about building it, and what are some of the ways that we can build that confidence in our day to day?
I love this because another thing that you'll probably hear me talk about often is Toastmasters. One, confidence in speaking is one thing, but in Toastmasters, anybody that's joined, and I would love to see in the chat anybody that has either joined or knows about Toastmasters, but it ultimately builds confidence in public speaking. But it can be in like a one-on-one session or a group session or whatever the case may be. And I say that because we ask a lot of fun questions in table topics. And one of the questions that I got asked one day was, what are some things that you do, Kelsey, to make sure your day is set up for success? And I said, well, first of all, I get up at the same time every day. I get up around 3 or 4 a.m. That hasn't changed for those that know me. I always make my bed. I know that is insane, but think about just the organization that comes with your day, right? So when you have kind of a set routine, it makes you feel better about yourself. And then I always get ready. Even for those that are remote workers, or even if you're going into the office, I try to take a moment to really present myself in a way that would help me feel confident in everything that I'm doing. So I know that sounds a little odd as areas that I would touch on before we get into our day job, right? But I just have found that the mornings that I don't get up at that time, I feel kind of sluggish. If I don't make my bed, then it bothers me all day long. And then I can just tell, like if I'm dressed in a certain way, or if I don't carry myself in a certain way, it makes it difficult. You never know what kind of interactions you're going to face in the workday. But I think the biggest thing that I really honed in on from a confidence standpoint was I talked a little bit about cycles earlier. And again, I think about that now more because I never believed it, as you probably all have been in that position. Somebody's told you a life lesson or given you advice, and it didn't really sink in until later. But I think about when I first struggled in a role, and I was a perfectionist. I went from being an expert to absorbing everything to being the go-to to taking this giant leap off a cliff into a new role, ready to take on the world. And it kind of hit me. I had to take a step back and be like, wow, you're not excelling at this like you thought. And I'm sure we've all been there at some point in time where you expect yourself to be in a different place at a different time. And so I really had to sit there and think about the fact that am I learning anything? Am I doing anything? And I think the biggest thing that I took away from, again, some of my mentorship and that I've passed along to mentees myself is to write down, I would say three things that you feel like you have learned or you want to learn. And what I did in the initial stages, and this is something you can continuously do because you should be continuously learning, is write down three things you want to learn and then look at those same things again in a week, look at them again in a month. But then, especially whenever you're taking on a new role, so you can help overcome that imposter syndrome and you can build your confidence, write down three things that you learned that you now feel confident in. Maybe it's, I know where to go for a resource. I know how to access a library. I remembered a particular win statement or whatever the case may be. Because then when you have that, keep track of it and then go back in 3 months and then 6 months and reflect on that. And then that is probably the biggest resonation that you will have is, oh, wow, I am learning. Maybe different roles or paths or journeys have a different speed to proficiency, but it doesn't mean that you're not learning. It just means that you have to adjust a little bit more to what you're doing. So I would say, again, just kind of twofold, have a nice very strong personal routine, but then also take the time to be kind to yourself and recognize that you really are learning. Even if it's not at the pace that you think you should be, you're absorbing more than you think you are.
I think so much of that goes to mindset and making sure that we control our mind rather than our mind controlling us, and putting the thoughts into it that we want to get out of it. Like you said, making sure that our mornings are as successful as they can be before we even get started, kind of to set that momentum in motion and get the dopamine hit of, okay,
Yeah.
I accomplished something right off the top, right?
Yes.
And also the piece that you mentioned about, there's just so many elements of it, but the learning curve. I'm currently in a role where I'm learning a whole bunch of new things, and I think that is so important to sit back and for my team too, if they're listening, for us to reflect every week upon and add that into our kind of our win column for the week. So thank you for that. So I want to go over to the chat real quick and ask you again. We're celebrating U.S. Women's History Month, International Women's Day coming up this week. So please go ahead and tag somebody that has inspired you and has helped you in your life, whether it's in your personal life or in your career, and they happen to be on LinkedIn. I'm sure they would appreciate that additional little shout out, so that they know that they've made an impact in your life. So, as we're wrapping up our time here today, Kelsey, there is so much going on for women in leadership this month. Could you share with us a little bit about what are some of the things that our team, if they're here at TTEC, and if you're not at TTEC yet, what you could be involved with if you are a part of our team?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So definitely lots of exciting things going on. And I really want to hit on, what we talked about earlier. We're celebrating this not only in the US, but globally. And there are so many activities that our leaders are really investing in. It's probably our most exciting celebration. So keep an eye out for the newsletter that comes out for those employees that are with us. There's a lot of different calendars out there. We have a great networking event coming up here in just a couple of weeks. And I think that's going to really help. Again, we talked a lot about confidence and personal brand and building upon that. So that networking event's going to be fantastic. We are renewing, our Toastmasters membership that's coming up. So that's another exciting item that will help build upon that. And we like to really hone in on a lot of the really strong female leaders that join that and how they transfer a lot of those skill sets. So yeah, lots of exciting pieces that are coming. I know that we also have another podcast coming up, I think, for, as you mentioned, we have Women's History Month. So lots of fun activities going on.
Yes, yeah, we'll be back here in a couple of weeks with another core team member from the Women in Leadership community, alongside one of our Wisdom Warrior allies as well, just kind of having a great conversation around that. So, and like you said, the podcast that will be coming up too. And I've looked at that calendar. It looks like every community around the world is really digging in and helping to celebrate and uplift. So we're excited about that. And hopefully that helped answer a little bit of the question about what can a TTEC employee joining expect to experience when coming to a session. I think that networking one will be something that's a little different than what we've had in the past. So I think you might just have to join so you can see what's ahead. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Kelsey, too.
Yeah, no, I would say, and I'll just kind of drop this in there quickly. The networking event is something that's kind of a new spicy ad for us. So I think the one thing that we're looking at for 2025 is capturing the feedback of our women leaders and really of our allies and our advocates, and pulling that all together and kind of taking a step out of the norm. And so we typically have webinars where we have fantastic speakers come in with really powerful messages. But this is going to be a great opportunity where you will be able to join. And as I said, it's a networking event where we'll have some different breakout rooms and give you the ability to have live conversations with different women of TTEC, different leaders of TTEC, and share some different experience. And the reason why I think that's so much fun is because I think we've all been on one of those, sessions where, it's typically, a large audience, and there's not a lot of opportunity to chat with the individual. And we can use the chat, but this will be an opportunity to come off a mute and have live conversation. So we're really excited. We'd love to have you join, and even more so, we'd love to have your feedback. I think that's a big piece that we're trying to instill this year, is capture that feedback and find new innovative ways to stay relevant and really bring the opportunities and development to some of these sessions. But the networking one is new. It's a lot of fun. We're excited to get it started this month.
Great. Looking forward to it. It's on the calendar. Also, just as we're wrapping up, Kelsey, just wanted to share Micaiah's feedback as well. Such an inspiring career mobility story to someone like me who is still in her first year. And I think that's another part of the Women's History Month, is that generational paying it forward. So whether it's new to your career at TTEC or in career in general, I'm glad that we were able to support Micaiah with that today and throughout the year as well. So thank you so much for your time today, Kelsey. I know there are a lot of amazing women and allies behind the Women in Leadership longest running. Next year, just everybody, there's going to be a big celebration, because what is next year? It is
10 years, yep. We jokingly always say that Women in Leadership is the OG ERG. So, but yes, we will be celebrating 10 years next year, and we're going to come up with something fun. So definitely stay tuned for that one.
Awesome. Well, we are super pumped for that. Thank you so much to everyone, a part of the Will Core team and the communities around the world that put on these amazing events throughout the year. Kelsey, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate you joining us, and wish you a great International Women's Day and rest of U.S. Women's History Month.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you. All right, everyone, it is that time where we talk about some of our hot jobs. And that is right. We have got if I was in India, this sounds like an amazing job. It is the head of coaching. And in this role, you will report directly to the chief learning officer. It is an amazing opportunity to really shape the effectiveness of coaching practices within the contact center. I know our learning and development team is fired up for an amazing year ahead. And so if you are in India and interested in working remotely, we highly encourage you to check out this role. And switching gears over to Mexico. That's right. Mexico is also hot. We are looking for a bilingual customer service representative for Spanish and English. And this is an amazing opportunity to join an award-winning team. That's right. We were certified once again as a great place to work in Mexico. And there are so many amazing stories of team members that started, as you heard, from Kelsey herself, started in the customer service role and took their career on a lot of different paths. So it's a great opportunity to check out this role and see where this could take your career. Thank you so much, everyone, for your participation in the chat, for joining us here today. Of course, to Kelsey and the amazing team behind Women in Leadership. They are volunteers, so they are reaching for amazing. Tomorrow is Global Employee Appreciation Day, so wanted to be sure to get that shout out. If you're part of TTEC, remember, use our shout out system to give a little appreciation to a team member that helped you out this week. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week, a great kickstart to International Women's Day. We'll see you back in a couple weeks, and have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.